Was the defense able to discredit lab director Adam Rosendorf, and was the defense able to show that Sunny Balwani's not the decision maker, it's Elizabeth Holmes? So I'm going to look at, you know me, I like to show you the evidence. So we're going to look at some emails. I'm also going to give you the highlights of Adam Rosendorf's cross-examination. Now, cross of Dr. Rosendorf continues on Tuesday. And by the way, scheduling update, trial is only scheduled for Tuesday and Wednesday for the next 2 weeks. So there will be no trial on Friday. And if I did my math right, that leaves about 10 days of trial left, because it's currently scheduled out until May 20th. So, hi there, I'm Michelle Hagan. I'm a legal analyst and I'm a former prosecutor. You may recognize me because I provided a lot of legal analysis on the Elizabeth Holmes case. In this video, simply my opinion. I want to know what your opinion is. What's your analysis? So please do leave a comment or question. And by the way, I'm getting ready to schedule our first live stream. Yay! But I want to let you know, if you're not subscribed to this channel, please do subscribe so you can participate in the live stream and support my work. So please do subscribe. All right, so let me give you a couple of the highlights on the cross. It's just getting started with Dr. Rosendorf. Again, it'll resume on Tuesday, the cross exam by the defense. So, in case you popped onto this channel, Adam Rosendorf, Dr. Rosendorf, was a lab director, former lab director of Theranos. Theranos is a company, a blood testing company that Elizabeth Holmes started. Sunny Balwani was the COO of Theranos. He's currently on trial for the same 12 counts of fraud that Elizabeth Holmes faced. She was convicted of 4 counts of fraud, and he is facing those same 12 counts, 6 relating to defrauding investors, 4 relating to defrauding patients, and 2 conspiracy to defraud with Holmes, either to defraud investors or to defraud patients. Okay, so highlights. Cross-examination so far. So the defense, their theory of this case, or what they're trying to prove to the jury, is Sunny Balwani doesn't make decisions at Theranos. It was Elizabeth Holmes. It's her company. She was in control. You can go back to my video I did on their opening statements, and you can take a look at that, watch that video, and you'll see what the defense was trying to show in opening statements. So they're trying to back it up here by having Dr. Rosendorf testify that he was basically reporting to Elizabeth Holmes. Well, let me show you some emails, and I'll let you make the call. The jury's going to look at these emails as well, and they're going to have to decide. And what do you think? What do you think the jury's going to think about these emails? So hang on, I'll show you them, but let me give you the rest of the highlights. So Balwani's defense team was trying to convince the jury that Sunny Balwani, as COO, wasn't the one who called the shots. It was Elizabeth Holmes. So we'll see. We'll see what those emails, what the evidence, I'm going to show you what the evidence shows, okay? And that he was just doing day-to-day operations. He wasn't the one making the decision maker. He wasn't the one making the decisions. Why does that matter? Because the defense could argue he was just doing what Elizabeth Holmes told him to do. He wasn't in a management or an executive position. He wasn't the one making the calls. She was, okay? So therefore, he's less culpable. Therefore, maybe he can get out of being responsible or guilty of conspiring or defrauding, because he was just doing simply what Elizabeth Holmes told him to do. So Dr. Rosendorf testified that Balwani was involved in the day-to-day workings. So therefore, he knew that the technology and the testing was not fast, accurate, reliable, cheap. In other words, fraudulent, making misrepresentations, which is what the prosecution is trying to say, to prove their case of fraud, defrauding investors and defrauding patients. And the defense started out by trying to get in. Now, this is cross-examination, right? So some of the goals are to discredit the witness. And what's one of the things you could use to discredit? Well, they tried to get into evidence that Dr. Rosendorf went and worked for another company. I think it's Ubiome in San Francisco that was also closed down. So in other words, to use that evidence to discredit Dr. Rosendorf, right? He seems to be involved in, or maybe, allegedly involved in labs that have inaccurate results or make misrepresentations. Maybe that's what the defense is trying to argue. But guess what? The judge did not let that in. So Adam Rosendorf's subsequent employment with Ubiome was not allowed in. So the jury didn't hear that. Okay? So let's get into those emails. And again, please do subscribe, leave a comment, please support my work, subscribe, and please vote for that live stream. Okay, so let's get into a couple of these emails, and I'm just going to show you, show you here. Here we go. Okay, so here is, I have about four or five emails that I'm going to show you briefly, okay? And then there's a couple emails where I want to show you that these emails may be used to show that Dr. Rosendorf knew that the technology wasn't working and knew that these tests were inaccurate, not reliable, because in cross-examination, he has said that he was never instructed by Holmes or Balwani to report any inaccurate results. And he said, how would I know? How would I know that these tests were inaccurate? Well, let me show you some emails that maybe the jury will consider to decide whether or not Balwani is culpable, in other words, guilty or not. All right, so here is, I'm going to scroll down to the bottom here. We're going to follow this email trail, and I'm just going to highlight some things here. Okay, so these are from one of the lab techs. She was updating Dr. Rosendorf, in other words, Adam, about how the results were going on some of these tests. And you can see rerunning QC, that's quality control, rerunning QC, rerunning QC. What's going on with quality control? Why isn't it working? Okay, then it's Adam responds, thanks for the update. And then again, she's submitting to Dr. Rosendorf, reran QC, failed again, reran QC, only 2 passed. So, hi Adam, here's an update with the second shipment. Our shifts end in 2 hours. What should we do with the pending test? And look, they have what, 23, they have 23 TSH tests. You can go ahead and read this, 11 vitamin D tests pending. And they're having problems with quality control and having to rerun. Okay, so what does Adam Rosendorf do? He reaches out to Sunny Balwani, not to Elizabeth Holmes at this point. Sunny Balwani says, hi, Sunny, it looks like there's quite a backlog of Edison tests. And you can go ahead and read this. What do you think? He's asking for advice from Sunny Balwani. Then what does Sunny Balwani do? Sunny sends it to Elizabeth Holmes. We need this mess resolved ASAP. I have been asking for more readers for over 2 weeks now. And we have a total of 27 working. So can the defense argue that this email here shows that Sunny wasn't making the call, Elizabeth was. He was reporting it to Elizabeth Holmes. Very interesting. Okay, now let's look at another email here. And again, you make the call. How do you think the jury's going to evaluate these emails? So let's scroll down here. Okay. So here are some lab techs reporting to several people that they have to rerun a bunch of tests. Again, they're still rerunning tests. And then it goes to Adam Rosendorf. And it says, almost every ISC sample needs a rerun since they are high. This is May 2014. Why does that matter? This is the time frame alleged in the indictment. And again, you might want to go look at my indictment video because I walk you through what the indictment is, and it matters what the dates are. This time period of May 2014 is that around the time that they are getting the investor money from the DeVos family, from Brian Grossman from the PFM Health Sciences Fund, from several of the investors, several of the charges relating to the investors are around this time. And so here's Adam Rosendorf being advised that they're needing to rerun some of the tests here. Okay, so who does Adam reach out to? He reaches out to Sunny Balwani. Says, Sunny, sorry to bother you. I'd like to correct our ISC problem. Please see Hoda's email below. I'm available over the weekend. Regards, Adam. Okay. Then Sunny sends it to Daniel Young and Elizabeth Holmes. And Daniel Young writes, he's writing, many reruns still. I sent Sunny an hour ago an update on the progress studies to resolve the ISC issues. And I think we are getting close to mastering this. Close to mastering this? I thought you were supposed to already have this stuff done. Okay, and having a unique novel solution. Yeah, unique and novel. Okay, just my opinion here. But who steps in? On May 9th, 2014 at 8:50 p.m., Elizabeth Holmes writes, she wrote, I'll take a look. If the bias correction is robust, we should implement it. What is the timeline on the final solution? So again, where was Sunny? It went to Elizabeth. Elizabeth stepped in. Is Elizabeth the one making the call here? Or is Sunny the one? Who's making the decisions? Well, this email can arguably show that it's Elizabeth Holmes, because she CCs it also to Sunny Balwani. Okay, let's look at another email here. Another piece of evidence. All right, so here is Daniel Young, who's one of, I think he was one of the management lab director level. He wanted to update Elizabeth Holmes. Elizabeth Holmes, not Sunny Balwani. He CCs Sunny Balwani, but it says to Elizabeth. I wanted to update you on the ISC studies and preparations for switching back to the diluted ISC protocols. You can go ahead and read this. All of you science wizards out there, of which I am not, take a look at this, because I'm sure there's plenty of stuff in here that you can work with. And please put it in your comment. All right. So who steps in here? Sunny Balwani. He says, Daniel, and notice, do you see it says attorney-client privilege communication? That's interesting. Daniel, this is a truly great progress and a big competitive advantage for us. We need to keep this project, the code, the calibration, and everything we learned here as Theranos trade secret. Okay, here's the trade secret. Everyone who is working on this needs to understand this. This also should not be communicated to anyone in the CLIA lab who doesn't need to know how we do this calibration and how we got where we are on this project. Besides Adam, no one in CLIA needs to know our secret sauce. Wow, secret sauce. Okay, you could say it's secret sauce, but I think the prosecution would call it something else. Anyway, notice here, the last paragraph. I leave it up to Mona and you to draft a strategy around this so EAH, Elizabeth Holmes, and I can sign off and implement. So, can the defense argue? Here again, Sunny is deferring to Elizabeth Holmes. She's the decision maker. He's just, he's just overseeing things. He's not the one calling the shots. So EAH and I can sign off. Could the prosecution argue? No, that shows that the two of them work together. It's a conspiracy to defraud patients and to defraud investors, right? Two or more people agree to commit a crime, a conspiracy. Maybe that's what the prosecution will argue. What does Adam Rosendorf say to Daniel Young? Congratulations on cracking this, Adam. So I guess things were getting better. This is May of 2014. They're taking in what did they take in? About $151 million beginning in February to the end of the year of 2014 from investors. And by the way, this exhibit, this email that you're looking at here, was introduced by the defense in Elizabeth Holmes' case, right? To show what was going on here with Sunny Balwani and to back up their claim that this was trade secrets, right? That Erica Chung and Tyler Schultz were giving away trade secrets. They were violating the law, allegedly, right? A way to discredit their testimony. Possibly. Okay, so now let's look at another email here. So here is, again, Adam Rosendorf. Who does he reach out to? So here's an email addressed to Elizabeth and Sunny. Not to just Sunny, not to Elizabeth, but to both of them. So his understanding, this is November now, his understanding is that he's responding to both of them, right? He's responsible to answering to both of them. And he says here, Elizabeth and Sunny, I would prefer if all the Theranos tests showed reference ranges that were specific to the sample type and method being used. Was it capillary blood, venous blood? Was it on a Theranos test or one of their other third-party devices they were using? And then he says here regarding number 2, using venous blood on Theranos, Adam Rosendorf is saying we need to discontinue this practice. What were they saying to investors? What were they saying to patients, right? What were the representations they were made? It was a finger stick draw. It was a couple droplets of blood. Was it? What does this email tell us? And then, secondly, he says, I would like the physicians to be aware if a test was performed on a finger stick versus a venous blood, because they would like to make it clear in the lab reports, and also for the physicians to be able to understand the discrepancy in the results. See, what was happening during this time is they were getting calls from doctors that were questioning the results that their patients were getting. So Rosendorf wanted to say, hey, let's let them know whether we're using finger stick or venous. They didn't. They didn't implement this practice, right? And I'm sure the prosecution will argue that relates to showing that they were hiding this. Therefore, it was fraud. They were making misrepresentations. Okay, so what happens next is that Rosendorf tells both Elizabeth and Sunny that he's discussed this new practice, basically, with the team, and all that remains is to get your sign-off, your Elizabeth and Sunny. And then what does Sunny do? Sunny steps in response to Adam, I haven't spoken to Elizabeth yet. Again, could the defense argue that this is proof? This email and a couple of the other emails I've shown you is proof that Balwani is just answering, he leaves the call. The decision is made by Elizabeth. He's just filling her in. It's her company. She's in control. Is that what the defense is going to argue? So you can go ahead and read. These are quite interesting emails. And then Adam says to Sunny, you can read this, but he says this is going to be confusing, and further, it's always best to use a single sample type and device. Again, he wants them to implement, let the patients and the doctors know whether it's a finger stick test or whether it was a venous blood draw, okay? One test, one sample type, and a unique RR is the best and most transparent solution, IMHO. I guess that's in my humble opinion. So they didn't implement this practice, his suggestion. And then he says, finally, the rate of the QC failure, quality control, is lower on the predicate, the third-party devices, than it is on the Theranos Edisons. So, by the way, this could go to, on cross-examination, when Rosendorf said that how was he to know the tests were inaccurate? Well, here he's pointing out the flaws to Elizabeth and Sunny. So maybe that could be used to discredit him. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think the jury's going to think? So then Sunny reaches back to him, not Elizabeth. Sunny reaches back and says, Adam, this is not the case. When a device fails, we always take the right corrective action, blah, 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 blah. So this also shows, how much scientific knowledge did Balwani have to answer these kind of questions? The defense wants you to believe he doesn't have a degree. He basically learned all the science from the Theranos scientists. Yet, if you look at these emails, it looks like he knows what he's talking about. Maybe. Maybe that's what they're going to say. We'll see. All right. So here's one of the last ones here. And again, this email specifically can be used to discredit, I think, Rosendorf on cross. When he says, and I'll go to the top here, he says, "Hi, Elizabeth." Okay? He's reaching out to Elizabeth, not to Sunny. He says, "Hi, Elizabeth." He has concerns about the launch. What launch? This is the Walgreens launch that they're getting ready to roll out those Theranos wellness centers so doctors can send their patients and people can just walk in and get their blood tested in the Theranos devices, right? That are fast, accurate, reliable, and cheap. That's what they claimed. That's what the prosecution is saying they claimed. So he says, "Hi, Elizabeth. I have some medical and operational concerns about the readiness for 9/9. That's when they were going to roll out, open up their wellness centers. He's noting significant negative bias exists for glucose. I am not sure how comfortable I am applying a correction factor for glucose. Maybe we need to work on our calibrators or chemistry." Again, could this be used on cross-examination to discredit Rosendorf if he said that he didn't know that these tests were inaccurate, right? And he wasn't told. He was not told by Elizabeth Holmes or Sunny Balwani to report inaccurate results. But what do these emails say? What do they say to you? "We are understaffed," he writes under operational. "We are understaffed and not trained in the new protocols." Well, what are they doing? Are they getting ready to test people's blood in Walgreens? And this is what the lab director is telling Elizabeth Holmes at this time? Now, is Sunny Balwani involved in this email? Its name doesn't appear. Isn't that interesting? Could the defense say, again, this shows that Elizabeth is the decision maker. She's the one that made the call. Oh, but Elizabeth sends it to Sunny. So, does that rebut the defense's claim that it was Elizabeth's call to make? If she's sending it to Sunny, is she just sending it to Sunny to get his input? Or is she sending it to Sunny just to let him know? And Sunny reaches back to Elizabeth and says, "We will talk to him. I assume we can use semen chemistry for glucose and sodium? Question mark. If yes, then we should." Can the defense argue that this email is showing that Sunny is asking Elizabeth what to do by that question mark? And Sunny says, "As for operational, remember, he is the COO of Theranos. We should tell him we will limit our samples until we have addressed the staffing and training needs." So could the defense argue, yeah, Sunny's in charge of staffing and training, but it's Elizabeth Holmes that's responsible for the testing, the technology, and the representations? Very interesting. But I think these emails, I think the defense could argue some points here to show that Balwani wasn't the one that made the calls. I don't know. Were they working together? Or was Balwani just following Elizabeth Holmes' lead? Okay, so here's one of the emails that can be used, I think, possibly on cross to discredit Rosendorf. It says, "To Sunny," and it's from Adam Rosendorf. It says, "Hi, Sunny and Daniel. I'd like to discontinue the HDL testing and revert to the vacutainer samples. I do not feel that the reporting this HDL in light of the spate of low HDLs we're having is good medical practice." Again, isn't this Rosendorf saying that there's problems? Not good medical practice? And he wants to go back to venous draws? It's sent to Sunny, right? He reaches out to Sunny, CCs it to Elizabeth. Okay. And then Daniel Young responds back, "It looks to me like the low end of the HDL range is very slight under recovery compared to the venous." So they're having problems with the finger stick being lower results than the venous draws. Fast, accurate, and reliable? I don't know. The jury's going to have to make a decision on this one. So Adam Rosendorf sends to Daniel Young and to Sunny. Again, he's reaching out to Sunny. The sooner we can fix the problem, the sooner we can revert to finger stick. So is this showing that there's a problem with their finger stick and that Dr. Rosendorf knew it? And can that be used to discredit him? If he's claiming that he didn't know, how was he to know that these test results were inaccurate? And then he says it's only since mid-February that they were getting lower results. And Sunny steps in, not Elizabeth. Sunny steps in and says, we must resolve this as soon as possible. Daniel, put everyone needed on this project. We cannot revert back to venipuncture for HDL. Why is that, Sunny? What were you telling? What was Elizabeth? What was in the press articles? Were they finger stick? Were they finger stick and Venus? What did you tell the investors? Who told who what when? Was it true statements or were these fraudulent statements? Sunny says, since we found the issue on Monday, he's going to troubleshoot the problem. What did we learn? He's asking Adam Rosendorf this. And then again, this could be used to discredit Rosendorf. He says to Sunny, February patient mean was 54 versus 62 and 65. So again, that's showing that Dr. Rosendorf knew that these tests were reporting lower results. Could that be used to discredit him, to impeach him? I don't know. We'll see. So let me see if I have one more here. Last one. This is Adam Rosendorf again to Sunny Balwani. And let me see. I know the text isn't the font is not so readable, but it's a doctor reaching out, wanting to know about some testosterone results because they're getting two different conflicting results. And so it's sent up the chain, and it goes from Max Voss up to Rosendorf, and they ask Adam Rosendorf, to call the doctor to explain the doctor what's going on. And then Rosendorf sends it to, I think, one of the customer service reps and to Christian Holmes that he had spoken to the doctor. He explained what was going on. And basically, he's saying here in the highlighted section, the significant discrepancies between the results separated by only a week raises grave concerns. Adam Rosendorf has grave concerns for both the accuracy and the potential individual precision of assays. Then he says, finally, as lab director, I need to sign off on proficiency testing, which have both been in production for almost a year, without, to my knowledge, a fully executed AAP plan and data. The data needs to be shared with the QC director, etc. So isn't this email showing that Dr. Rosendorf knew that they didn't have the proficiency testing done? There were problems, there were discrepancies? I don't know. What's the defense going to do with this? What's the jury going to do with this email? And so Adam Rosendorf reaches out to Sunny, right? Please see below, letting him know about the result with the call that he had with the physician. And he says here, Adam explains to Sunny that the results of the testosterone were totally different. Totally different results. So no wonder the doctor was calling and asking. So, Adam Rosendorf reached out to Balwani, right? So maybe this email can also be showed to say he wasn't reaching out to Elizabeth Holmes. And was Elizabeth Holmes CC'd on any of this? Doesn't look like it. So maybe the buck did stop with Sunny Balwani. Maybe he was the one that made the decisions for the lab, and it wasn't Elizabeth Holmes. And maybe Dr. Rosendorf could be discredited when he says that how would he know that these results were inaccurate? Well, I think these emails may suggest something different. So that's my analysis. What's your analysis? What do you think? What's the jury going to do with this? Are they going to say, are these emails can we conclude from these emails that Balwani, yes, he was involved with the day-to-day lab operations. In fact, he was instructing the team. He was the one making the calls. He was calling the shots at the lab. He was just filling in Elizabeth Holmes. Maybe that's what the prosecution is going to argue. But the defense can say, I need to speak with Elizabeth. We're going to get back to you on this. And then Elizabeth steps in on those emails. So it shows the defense could possibly argue, no, no, no. He was just following what Elizabeth told him to do. Remember that question mark? Do we go ahead with the glucose? He's asking Elizabeth Holmes. It's her company. She was in control. Balwani's not responsible. He's just the op guy. I don't know. What do you think? Let me know. What's your analysis? Please leave a comment and please subscribe. And please let me know in the poll whether or not what topic do you want me to cover in the upcoming live stream. And again, please support my work. Please subscribe. Hit that like button. Hit the bell notification. And thank you very much for watching.